video on Bukusu of Western Kenya and their cultural practices of circumcision. Part 1 is on this channel of mine. You can look for it if you want it. And this is now part 2, like I promised in part 1. Still, I'm saying, reminding you that the Bukusu are the most populated of the Luhya of Kenya, but the Luhya themselves are the second largest tribe in Kenya, according to the 2020 statistics. There they are. This is the whole population of the Luhya is about 4 million, and the Bukusu are about 1.2 million. No other tribe is a million among, not a sub-tribe, among the Bukusus are a million, and therefore the Bukusu make more than 25% of the Luhya. And the Bukusus are situated in the western part of Kenya, and Kenya is actually situated in the eastern part of Africa. So, in part 1, we saw this. In part 1, we are talking about song and dance. So all this is found in part 1, if you want to see it. We are seeing here a leader, a member of parliament from Trans Nzoia Kiminini, Chris Wamalwa, enjoying something that he himself went through when he was young, something I went through when I was young. So it's a culture, it's in us, we live with it. So here he is, you can see how much he's enjoying. Many other leaders also. In part 1, you saw also Didmas Barasa, another member of parliament, enjoying it. So this is our culture, so to speak. My culture, so to speak. The Bukusu culture, so to speak. We undergo the cutting of we call it the cut, when we are circumcised. And our circumcision gives us a rite of passage, so that you become a man. And in the olden days, men were being circumcised at ages 18 and so on. So immediately he heals, he marries. But these days, we circumcise our kids when they are a little younger. So that is, all this was in part 1, and Member of Parliament is enjoying but warning, because the Bukusus have a funny habit that when they think that every man must be circumcised. So they see a man who is not circumcised, they must forcibly circumcise him. So the Member of Parliament is saying, no, let's respect each other's culture. This is ours, don't force it onto others. So that is exactly what the Member of Parliament is doing, a responsible leader, telling people to observe and respect others' cultures. All that was in part 1. Now in part 2, I want just to talk a little bit about this year, 2020. Because of COVID-19, the government has advised that the Bukusus don't do that ritual, because it brings people together and therefore it creates an environment, a fertile environment for the spread of COVID. But there are some diehards who are saying, no, just listen to that. This is an elder. Actually, is the father of the current governor of Bungoma. This is Mzee Wangamati. He's telling us about our culture. Listen to him. Others say they won't. He's saying he won't leave, he must continue Kimila. But now, let's look at actually the origin of this ritual of circumcision. Let's listen to an elder.
Na hapo ndipo mambo ya tohara ya Bukusu ilianzia. Na Bukusu mwenyewe tulikuwa na mzee anaitwa Mangu, na huyu mzee mimi tulikuwa na joka kubwa sana pale, na hii joka kubwa hii ilikuwa nakula mbuzi na ng'ombe za watu. Lakini sasa Wamasai wale walikuwa hapo karibu, Wamasai, Wasaboti, ni Wateso na Wabukusu. Sasa waliona ya kwamba mtu yule ambaye anaweza kuwa hii nyoka hii kubwa hii anatusumbua sisi, tutampatia kitu kama graduation, kitu kubwa sana, hiyo zawadi kubwa. Sasa kwa hivyo Mango alipoingilia jamii ya mbuzi zake na ng'ombe, akaonea ya kwamba mpaka mimi niwe shujaa yule ambaye lazima nifanye hii kazi. Akaenda akatafuta kitu kinaitwa ember kali kabisa, akanoa vizuri sana, na akaenda pahali akaangalia mahali hiyo pango hiyo joka inakaa, na akaona kweli ni hapo. Sasa yeye vile alifanya, alienda kukata mtu mzuri sana stem ile ya mti, akaenda kuweka tu karibu na mlango sana. Na Mango hapo, kwa sababu najua harufu ya mwanadamu na nyoka iko tofauti. Sasa huyu Manga akaenda kujipaka udongo, na akajipaka udongo hiyo wote mwili yote, na hiyo ikapoteza harufu. Na vile ilipoteza harufu, akaenda kukaa ndani ya pango. Vile alikaa ndani ya pango, nyoka saa 9 saa 10 ndio hiyo sasa inakuja. Na vile ilikuja kweli, ikakuja mpaka ikaenda tu ndani kuangalia huko ni mahali, naona kama kitu ile iko mpya na kitu kani, lakini haikunusia ile harufu ya Mango. Sasa hapo wakati iliweka tu kichwa kwa hiyo mti ile alikuwa amekata, naye akachukua ile sword, akakata safari moja tu na nguvu yote, na akakata kichwa, ikaruka ikaenda mpaka ikaruka. Vile iliruka ikaenda ikapata mkuyu hapo nje, ikakatalia mkuyu, ikauma, na hiyo ilikuwa hapo na poison. Sasa ikaenda hapo ikakufia hapo. Sasa vile ilikufia hapo, alafu huko ndani Mango naye alikuwa amekufa kabisa. Alikuwa anafikiria labda hajakata, lakini kwa uzuri alikuwa amekata hiyo kichwa. Sasa hiyo nyoka vile unaona mirundi yake yote ikafunga yeye, na akatoka na akasema ya kwamba nakwiru sahi nakwiru kusini. Vile alitoka hapo na anapiga kelele nduru vizuri ya kwamba amemaliza. Sasa kutoka hapo ndiye akaenda, watu wakamshangilia, wakamleta, alafu wakamwonyesha kwamba huyu ndiye amekuwa shujaa. Na vile uche yake vile aliua nyoka, vile wakasema leo wewe pia ni mwanaume, makota tairiwa. Sasa hiyo zawadi wakampatia, wakatairisha. Kutokea hapo ndipo mpaka saa hii Bukusu akaanzia hapo na encouragement yake na courage yake, alafu mpaka kuanzia hapo.
Now, the origin of circumcision. There are a number of versions. This is the most popular version, but the end of this version is one. There is another end to the same version. In a nutshell, the Bukusus were staying in the neighborhood. Their neighbors were Saboids, Kalenjin, so to speak, Masais, like you heard from him. And it is said that those days there was a big snake that was disturbing the people, eating, swallowing goats, swallowing even cows, and indeed even people. and everybody feared it. Everybody wanted to kill it, but nobody attempted. Now, just a little bit aside, aside from that version, it is said that the snake one time swallowed Mango's, the Bukusu man, Mango's animal, and Mango was annoyed to the hilt. Mango decided, this one I must kill it. It has killed my favorite animal, I must kill it. And therefore he prepared himself. He knew where the snake, normally there was a cave where the snake would go to rest at night and come out to hunt and to eat and to destroy, be them Kalenjins, cows, Maasai cows, all the neighborhood. So, Mango thought, I am going to hide in the cave of this snake when it is out, so that when it comes back, and when the snake comes back, it enters and then starts throwing its tail deep into the cave, and the head stays at the entrance of the cave. And Mango knew that. Mango thought, I'm going to stand by the cave, and when it now finishes its coils back and brings the head into at the entrance, he would have prepared a log where he thinks that the head will stand on, and then he will really chop it off. But then Mango knew that if he just went there as a human being, the snake would smell feel the presence of the human being, and therefore it will kill him before he killed it. So Mango stayed outside the house for, I'm told, 3-4 good days, every time smearing himself with mud and to remove that smell that will could attract the snake. And then, when he was sure now that he will not smell, he will not attract the snake with the smell, he now prepared his sword, sharpened it very well, went into the cave and hid at the corner, put his log in a position where he knew the snake will come and put on its head and would chop it. And indeed it is said, the snake came, Mango was there hidden. The snake did not notice Mango because it was like natural, something natural, not human. And when the snake coiled its tail into the cave and put the head at the entrance, Mango woke up and hit it once, chopped off the head. This gentleman said that the head ran outside the cave and onto a big tree, Mukoyo tree, hit it, and all the poison ended up. By this time, Mango was already dead with fear, and he didn't know that he had actually even killed it. But when he came back to his senses, he came out shouting, I've killed it, and everybody came praising him. And that's now where his end differs from my end, according to the story I was told by the elder that you saw. That the Kalenjins, the Saboitis, were most impressed. They said, as a gift to you, Mango, for having killed this snake that was disturbing every one of us, we are gifting you our girl. They are one of their most beautiful girls. So they gifted Mango the girl. Go, this is going to be your wife. But when they reached Mango's place, home, at night, the girl noticed that Mango is not circumcised. And the Kalenjins, they avoid circumcise themselves. So the girl refused to sleep with Mango, saying, until and unless you are circumcised, I cannot be your wife. And that is when Mango got circumcised, and now the Bukusus started circumcising. So, if you follow that story well, therefore the Bukusus traditionally were not circumcising. It is only from Mango. That's where the origin of. So this culture of circumcision, therefore we adopted it as Bukusu. We adopted, and if you want, adapted it from the Kalenjins. And therefore, culture can be born. Circumcisions can force a culture to be born. That's the lesson we get from there. But as a professor of entrepreneurship, I want to focus on entrepreneurship in the Mango's Act. One, Mango was taking risk. Mango was going to kill it. He knew it was risk. He did not just go into it. He prepared it. He planned it. So he was taking calculated risk. It is like when you're going in business, and you just don't go into business, you do a business plan and say, this is my alternative. If it fails, I'll do ABCD. The courage that this man is telling us about Mango is the courage of an entrepreneur. So, just that bit of it in entrepreneurship, risk calculation, taking risk, but planning to take that risk and not just taking risk as it is. The point of learning here about culture, that therefore circumcision was not Bukusu culture, we adopted it. Therefore, culture can change. If you follow that story, culture can change. We change from non-circumcision to circumcision. And this reminds me, the other day I was walking around the streets, and I made this boy. Listen to him. This is the author of the song Binduli Chenjanga. He says, Binduli Chenjanga Silone Kumu, that the only constant thing in this world is change. Change is constant. Change changes. There is change every time. And therefore even culture can change. Let's therefore go back to our culture. These are the artifacts of culture. These are the components of culture, the food. So when we talk of culture, we're not just talking of circumcision. Circumcision is a ritual, and that is a component of culture. There are other things. Food is culture. Language is culture. Attitude is culture. The architecture that people use is culture. The houses they live in is culture. And therefore, if that is so, let's look at some aspects of culture of the Bukusu. Again, these are the circumcision elders that I made, the element of the Bukusu culture. So, I was interviewing them, I was talking with them, and they gave me quite a number of information which I may not be able to reproduce all here. discussed, what has actually changed or is changing in Bukusu culture? The houses. Look, originally and traditionally, those were our houses. That was our culture. You go to any museum and they'll say this is Luo houses, Turkana houses, Luya houses, Bukusu houses. So that's our culture. Today, we are living in houses, in these houses, even in the rural areas, we are no longer living in those houses. So that aspect of culture has changed. Clothing. Look, those were the clothings. Today, we have clothing that are not our culture. Yes, that was our drinking. Today, we drink in the boat, we drink vodka, we sit round, and somebody serving, instead of serving in the boat. So, we are changing. Things are changing. How about the cooking? Yes, the 3 stones cooking. Now we're cooking in a different version. So the food, the cooking, the food. Yes, we have the brown ugali with white ants, termites. We had also white ugali but with mushrooms. Today we are eating chapatis with salads. So things are changing. Quite a number of aspects of our culture are changing. So we cannot stick, you cannot say that I will never change and you're talking of only one part of culture. So, go back to Amos Barasa, and he tells us bintu bichenjanga, and let's see if we saw it, it sang for us that things can change, and indeed we can illustrate that we have come from far. So, my point therefore here is culture changes. Circumstances can force culture to change. I am talking to you not in my language, I'm talking in a foreign language. And we saw language being part of the culture. My clothes that I'm putting on are not traditional, but we change for the better. And therefore, if you ask me, I was circumcised, I was cut, but my son went to hospital and is not a lesser man. And therefore, bindu bichenjanga. Thank you.